Formula One heads to the Ardennes forest of Belgium and the course simply known as Spa. Welcome back to the Formation Lap with Todd and Brad, regular guys talking elite racing. It's been a couple of weeks since we've been with you, and it's great to be back and one of my favorite courses, one of my favorite races to watch, and it's going to be fun. And Todd, I welcome you here. Last time we were with everyone here, and the last time we saw some F1 racing, we saw Charles Leclerc take the checkered flag at Silverstone, and we go to another iconic course here in Belgium. As I mentioned, we're going to call it Spa. It's got a long name, but everyone refers to it as Spa. So, Todd, it's going to be a fun weekend.
Yeah, Brad, it's great to be back, and you and I have talked about how could we get to this course, right? And Spa and enjoy it, and I'm excited because the track used to be really big, and it just got a lot of history. And coming from Silverstone, which is history in itself, we're going to see some undulations and mountains. So I'm excited. I think that the drivers are super excited because this is the race. They get 2 more races, they get a summer break, right? So they're like pouring it all in. So yeah, I'm excited. So Brad, it's good to be back.
Yeah,
and I'm gonna call it Spa because
we're gonna call it Spa.
I'm not gonna be able to pronounce half these names.
Absolutely. But let's get into it a little bit of what matters this weekend and where we are so far. As you can see in the screen behind us, of course, 19-year-old Kimi Antonelli still leading.
Yeah.
But Todd, he's got some competition. I mean, George is now 25 points behind, so George is a win and a no points finish away from being tied with Kimi.
Right.
Lewis is not far behind. Charles and 4 Charles points got helped by his big win. And then in the constructors, Mercedes still holding to a lead, but it's been shrunk. Ferrari's charging, McLaren there in third, and Red Bull making a charge. But that's where we are so far. And Todd, you mentioned it. We got this race and Hungary next week.
That's right.
Before the summer break. And Kimmy's going to want to see that distance extended for that lead. And George and Lewis and Charles, for that matter, they're going to want to lessen that deficit
they are.
some more.
And Brad, I mean, if you watch Silverstone, it was a great race. And you watch
fantastic
after the checkered flag, you can hear different things. But I think Kimi, he's frustrated, and this is where championships are won.
That's right.
You really go through, and the 2 times that he hasn't finished in points, it wasn't his fault. The car broke and the power unit went down, and George, he had a great opportunity. And you're right, Ferrari's coming with some more upgrades, and so we'll see what happens, but it's going to be a great race. We're in round 10, and we've got 11, and then we're going to go into the summer break, and there's talk about maybe adding 2 more, into the race somewhere.
To make up for those 2 that we lost, right.
So this is not done. And,
no,
and,
definitely not.
If we go 22 races, we're almost halfway through.
Right.
So what do you do? And you're right. If Kimi doesn't score and George wins, it's
tied.
On that. But anyway, it's interesting. So Brad, let's go and talk about why does it matter in Belgium, and what's so cool about this? What do you think?
Yeah, well, you can see legendary circuit. I mean, been racing here for years and years and years. And I mean, I put this. We always talk about Monaco. We talk about Silverstone. I feel like this one's up there with those just iconic courses. It's one of those, and we're going to show you a picture here in a few minutes as we continue to talk through it. But just so many of these corners are named. I encourage you to either Google it, or if you have the F1 app or F1.com to look at it. They have given a really cool article that me and you read of how each one of these corners and sections got their name. So it's really, really cool just to see all the history here. Todd, we're in the forest here in the Ardennes. Exactly. The Ardennes, a legendary forest. It's got a lot of history, got a lot of World War II history, and then you have this super cool course right there in the forest in Belgium.
Right, laid on the ground. And folks, we live near the Smoky Mountains, or the Appalachian Mountains in Georgia, and goes all the way to Maine. This forest reminds me of the Appalachians because it has an ecosystem that, any given time it could rain here, but not rain, over across the next mountains. And right here in this track, it could be the same. And being the forest, it's just really cool. And then to put a racetrack in it,
And I'm glad you brought that up, and we're going to talk about the unpredictable weather here. But Todd, you mentioned something that it could be raining in Sector 1 and not raining in Sector 3. So that's a challenge on the tires. It's a challenge on when do I push, when do I not push, and these race engineers and the teams are having to talk through the drivers of, okay, it's raining in this corner, so ease up a little bit and then get back on it. So it's a great course. It's speed. It's some medium speed corners. It's also very technical, and then you throw in just the elements. It's a challenging weekend.
Oh, it is. And if you've ever been to Road Atlanta, it's got some hills, and it's similar. And folks, we live near the mountains again, and we call them the Smoky Mountains because it's got sometimes fog, and it's because, like you said, it could be raining on turn 7, 8, 9, and then it's dry over here. How do you race that? And then, oh, by the way, it's the highest elevation track in change of elevation that we have, and it reminds me when I learned how to drive, it was fun to go to the mountains and hit those hills and then be able to go down, but then you had to make sure you stopped at the corners that were coming. And so I think, the Belgium Grand Prix matters because we've been on some very fast, tracks that are relatively flat but very technical.
Mm-hmm.
Don't get me wrong, Spa is.
Right.
But this one with the elevation changes, I think what matters here, Brad, is that those racers, are going to have to step it up because they're going to be wore out.
Yeah.
When they're done with this. And if you watch some of those previews, the racers are saying, I'm wore out. By the time I get to the end of the track, I'm ready to, breathe, but I can't. And all this. But yeah, it's exciting. And like you said, Brad, this could change the whole championship.
Right.
In a couple of turns, couple of wrecks, couple of stops, or the virtual safety car. But this track really matters.
Yeah, absolutely. Unpredictable weather. I know as we were talking earlier in the week, getting ready for our preview tonight. We thought it was going to be a chance to rain. It has gone down. I think we're about 5% for the race on Sunday. Now, once again, that could mean it's raining in Sector 1 and not raining in Sector 2 and 3. But it does look that the likelihood has decreased. Same way for qualifying on Saturday. So it looks like, we could get some spits of rain, as we like to say. But it's decreased, which is good. I mean, I think we're all kind of still anxiously waiting to see these new cars in a wet race. But maybe not here in Spa.
Practice. I heard that practice might have rain. We might see wet tires for the first time.
So it's going to be really interesting. The tire strategy, this track, this tarmac was resurfaced a few years ago. But Todd, this is a course that gets a lot of rubber laid down on it all throughout the year, not just from the F1 weekend, F2, F3, the F1 Academy. There's been a lot of rubber laid down. There was a race here a few weeks ago, I think, when one of those multi-hour challenge race. So there's been some rubber laid down, so that's big. But we talked about with elevation changes, with some medium speed corners, with the technicality, I'm expecting to see probably mediums in the hards. I don't know, could see the softs later if there's a safety car, but the tire strategy is obviously going to be key here. It was crazy because we talked about a couple weeks ago the crazy heat. Don't necessarily think we'll get that, but things are unpredictable.
That's true. And Brad, you're right. The tire strategy, we talk about it, right? We haven't really seen it really play big, but I think it could in this case because of the hills and the curves, and there's some high speed, turns that they're going to have to make, and then there's that, hairpin that comes in, and that's when their tires are burning. We'll definitely see, but I think it's going to be interesting. Let's talk about the track for a minute.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's where. If you're a McLaren fan, you saw one of the greatest passes, Oscar on top of Lando, where he didn't think, and it was right at the bottom of that.
Yep.
I can't call it. You call it the what? How do you say it?
So I mean, the ones I know is Raidillon and Eau Rouge.
Eau Rouge, that's where it was. So
Eau
they
Rouge,
were up, and he figured it out.
And you're gonna see multiple times this weekend in all three of the practice sessions and qualifying in the race. There's going to be a camera angle, and it's just this beautiful shot of in the background is going to be the grandstands and this beautiful shot of these cars going up, and as you can see, but Raidillon and Eau Rouge are the two big ones that are known.
That's right, and that's where Oscar, he knew he put it on at the bottom of Rouge, and then when he got to the top, Lando was like, oh, and then he was able, but think about, and folks, this was like, going at full speed and knowing that he's going to have to make a pass in just a very short space and surprise. I think we're going to see some more of that with these cars and the elevation change is amazing. And if you get to watch, folks, there's that camera that Brad talked about. They show the difference between like a circuit car, an F3, an F2, and then F1 going on this this place, and it's amazing how fast
it is. It is. So just a couple of highlights to hit about Spa. Todd, we're going to put this in miles, but 4.352 miles. For those that are anywhere else in the world, a little over 7 kilometers. This is the longest F1 track of the year, and because of that, it's I believe this is the shortest amount of racing laps. So we only get 44. It's crazy, Todd, to think about. It hadn't been that long ago. It's been about a month and a half ago. We were at Monaco, and we were up into the 70s, I think, in Monaco, and here it's 44. But it's because it is such a long
and
track.
This is cut down.
Exactly. I mean,
used to be.
we once again, I saw an article. I mean, the original track. I mean, it was super long. Like they cut this way down, and this is still 4.352 miles, 7 kilometers. So very, very long, very long track. And Todd, you mentioned it. It is maybe not the most physically demanding track. We're going to get to one of those later on in the year, but mentally, when you're doing that, it wears on you, and you're exhausted. And guess what? Cross start finish line, you gotta do it again and everything.
Exactly.
So that's the length of the course, the number of laps. Todd's got Todd, you got the elevation profile on all these different elevation changes we're going to see this week.
Yeah, and that's what I was talking about. The drivers are like, I'm exhausted.
Yeah.
And if you've ever, and you've done it, you've driven in the mountains, you're having fun.
Yeah.
But then you get tired and you're like, oh, I've got to go up another mountain or these curves and I've got to watch this. And, just think I wasn't going 180 to 200 miles an hour at the time. I wanted to, right?
Yeah.
But, I think you're right. And then we talked a little bit about the weather. This could change on this side of the track.
Absolutely.
This side of the track. And then guess what? It rains on where it was dry and now, or it gets foggy because they're supposed to have fog.
Todd, just looking at this, so sector 1 there, kind of in the yellow color. Of course, that beautiful picture up. I think that's going to be the passing opportunity there at that long straight. Sector 2, that red sector, very, very technical. I mean, they got to be. Sometimes it's the latest to break in some of these chicanes, but also got to hit your mark, so you're going to be in trouble into the gravel, into the wall, and then the blue sector, a chance to definitely maybe pick up some pace, pick up some speed, but a track that's got a little bit of everything, which is why I love it. It's got the super technical part. It's got some elevation changes, but there is some chances to go flat out. And I was looking, in the mid 50s for overtakes last year, so definitely not the fewest we've seen, but it is a course that potentially has got some tough overtaking. I was shocked by this, and this is measured by the last 8 races in Spa. A 0% virtual safety car chance, but a 50% true safety car probability. So could see something, could not see something, but that is definitely not as high as we've seen at other courses.
No, it isn't. And the blue sector is when your tires are screaming.
Yes, absolutely.
And Isaac or Isaac, if you watch it, he's got his French, and so he was talking a little bit about this track and that, and he was you could tell he was exhausted just talking about how this track is going to be. He's visualized it. So it's going to be a lot of fun, folks, and it might want to get you out into the countryside and drive on a road after this one day, but we'll do it. So Brad, let's go to the battle of the week. There's going to be a lot going on. We've got Ferrari coming with some other upgrades in their power unit. They are trying their hardest to get to the summer break to do this. And, I think they're going to be matched up again with Mercedes.
Absolutely.
I think, Kimi and George are going to do well again, but I think it's going to be those two again, as a feature team. We'll talk about the predictions here in a minute, but, I think the key advantage to, Kimi is going to be pushing like crazy, but George and Lewis have driven this thing so many times. What do you think about the battle of the week?
Yeah, I mean, as far as the featured matchup, I mean, I'm looking like I really think Charles has put his name back into this, and I think he just has got so much confidence, and we've seen when Charles gets a little confidence. Yeah. He's tough to beat, but I truly think, not to sound boring and not to sound, just kind of run of the mill, but I mean, the matchup is Ferrari versus Mercedes. Obviously, it's like, okay, we've had a week off. Let's get some things figured out back at the factories, and if you're Ferrari, hey, let's go push in these final two before a summer break. And by the way, and we'll talk about this more, but summer break, teams can't do anything. They are truly off. So this is the last two races before, we really, see that Ferrari is going to be for real, or Mercedes can push that. Todd, in your mind, what team, what driver, who has the key advantage this week?
Well, I mean, it's going to be it's Lewis, George, Kimmy, or Charles. I think you're right. Charles is there, but man, the media has been just pounding him.
Yes.
Tell us what you saw. Tell us, what you did. So I think Charles is going to have the hardest time.
Yeah.
Because he's being, questioned every time someone sees him. What did you see in the data?
Yeah.
That caused you to be so good. I think he's going to be challenged the most in regards to this. And then Max is just, struggling. And there's been a lot in the media about, is he going to switch teams and things? They put that to bed right now. But I think that's going to be some of the those challenges there. And then your midfields. I think Racing Bulls, those two drivers, they're just proving themselves.
Absolutely.
They're going to say, I'm going to do it again.
Absolutely.
And I think, a couple of teams, I think, yours is one of them, and there's another one that I've heard of that they're going to have to start back in the grid because they had to go beyond their how many times you could upgrade the engine or how many times you could do this. There's a few of them that are pushing, knowing that soon they get to summer. So, Brad, I think Charles is going to be the one that's going to be challenged the most.
Absolutely.
And then the other guys, who do you think?
I mean, so you spoke about, but I'm going to say, I think, a challenge, what could hold them back is Lando. So you talk, and just to hit on it real quick. So if you're a McLaren fan, Lando they had problems at China. He's had problems in several other circuits, and it's some electrical components, and they have had to change them out so many times. Well, you're only allocated. F1 and the FIA only allows you a certain allocation throughout the year. So McLaren made the very tough decision that we're going to go ahead and switch that out. And this has been an ongoing theme, and it's just not with McLaren. It's anyone who's got a Mercedes power unit. They've had some reliability issues. McLaren made the decision, we're going to change this out of Lando's car. So no matter where Lando qualifies at, if Lando was to qualify first, he is, because they changed this component out and because they are already over their allocation on his car, he's going to serve a 10-place grid penalty.
10 places.
Yeah, wow. 10-place grid penalty. So if Lando qualifies second, he will actually start in 12th on the race on Sunday. So I think that's going to be tough. Now, saying that, I think, we've got some upgrades coming. I don't know that it's going to be this weekend. I think it's probably going to be Hungary next week. But I do think, hopefully I'm hoping Lando's somewhere in the top 5 or 6. Now, that's still a challenge, but I anticipate him starting on hard tires, him pushing as long as he can. He should be able to pass some guys and not jump too far ahead. But for Lando, he's going to be on the back foot already. Hopefully he can work his way up into the points. But
and I think, Brad,
we'll see.
And people watching, some teams do this on purpose because they know Spa is an opportunity that you can really push.
Right.
And make it. They're sacrificing some points or places, but they understand, okay, the upgrades I'm making on the car, I'll be able to get up into the points or whatever. But, we'll see what happens. But, Brad, I think Lawson and Limlad, this is where they're going to shine again.
Oh.
And I think this is where they're going to take advantage of that raw talent.
I agree.
And they don't have all the noise that's been going on with Red Bull and things, right? And so I think this is where they're going to really take advantage of
absolutely
Lando's 10 places back, wherever he is. Or, how would you like to be driving and you had Lando coming out? I'm going to make sure he's not going to pass me.
And Todd, we talked about this in Silverstone last time. You saw Max, Kimmy, and Oscar, three guys of the big teams that didn't score points. Well, what always happens when that happens? It allows 3 midfield drivers to go and score points. So with Lando starting at least P11, probably going to be worse than that. You can almost pencil Racing Bulls as they're going to probably be in the points, but this allows someone else to possibly. I still think Lando's got a good shot, but work their way up to the points. So that's going to be. I look at the 2 Alpines are going to be pushing. I think the 2 Haas's are going to be pushing. I think Carlos could be in there. So that's going to be interesting with Lando starting back, and who knows, we could see some more possibly, or we never know what's going to happen in qualifying either.
That's
so,
right. Yeah, and Brad, I think we added the battle of the week here because the last few races have been yes, don't get me wrong, battle, but there's a lot of prestige.
Yes.
Okay, Spa is a prestige. Don't get me wrong, but I think the battles now is I've got to position myself for the summer.
That's right.
And that's why we wanted to talk a little bit about this at a cool and really neat course.
Absolutely.
And yeah, winning at Spa is just as important as others.
Absolutely.
But if you're at Silverstone, that's it's a different win.
It's
Especially
with Monaco.
Yeah, in Monaco and others. So I think that's, how this is going to play out. Not that they have been battling, but this is going to be a little bit more edgy.
Absolutely.
And if the weather holds out, we're going to see it.
Real quickly before we move on, one driver that you're kind of watching out for.
I'm watching Lawson.
I like that.
What
I'm going Isaac, and it's just because all the attention's been on Max, and we're going to get into this. This is probably going to be one of our episodes during the summer break. We're going to talk about Max and the rumors, but Max had all the attention. Max has had the struggles. Isaac's just quietly really put together a couple of nice races, and so I'm watching for Isaac. And he hadn't wrecked. All right, Todd, let's get into Red Papaya. What are you expecting from Charles and Lewis this week?
Yeah, so I'm going to little sneak peek to my predictions here. I think Lewis is going to pull it off. Because I think he's got that momentum. Charles is going to get there.
Yeah.
And I think both of them have reunited, what they're doing with the team.
Mm-hmm.
The team we're seeing the product of something that's been going on for about 15 months. We just haven't seen it starting to come to fruition. And I think Lewis he knows this course.
Yeah.
At Silverstone, if he'd had his car just right, I think the race would have done better for him. And who knows in the last lap if, they let it go.
Right.
We don't know. He would have passed Charles.
That's true.
I mean, George.
Yeah.
But then Charles was so far ahead. I think they're going to do well, but I think that's going to hold Charles back a little bit, in my opinion, because now he's like, hey, this is what I did at Silverstone. But Lewis like, I got this. And so that's where I think, the Ferraris are going to be. And
absolutely.
We'll see what the upgrades. Supposedly they've got another something more power unit.
And Todd, just real quick to your point, saw some, and these are rumors with nothing confirmed, but saw several articles and everything that said Mercedes have stopped their development for the 2027 car because they want to continue 2026 development because they see Ferrari as such a competitor. And if we would have said that through we'd have thought, Mercedes has lost their minds. They're going to run away with this. But Lewis and Charles have been in such great form, and they are charging. And I mean, it's because of the reliability issues out of Mercedes. Mercedes have pumped the brakes. They want to make sure one of their guys is the world champion, and they're the constructors. So that's a big deal to me. That shows you just all the hard work that Ferrari has put in, how good Charles and Lewis have been, but Mercedes sees Ferrari as a true threat,
folks,
which they are.
If you watch Silverstone, Charles is almost, 18, 19 seconds ahead?
He was killing it. Yeah, it's blistering pace.
Everybody was saying that they weren't going to do well there. Yeah. And so, Mercedes said, and they've always said the chassis of the car is strong.
Right.
For the curve, the power, okay, we're going to let that. Now, you're right. So I think everybody's a little bit concerned, but Ferrari's not.
No.
They're like... And I think Fred has done a great job at changing the attitude
and the culture there.
Because that back then you couldn't fail before Fred came in, and now it's okay to fail. That's how we learn.
And I think along with that, Lewis has also been a big part of that culture change. I mean, and I love we both love Carlos, but you get a 7-time world champion in there where he can give his opinion. It's a Lewis culture change as well.
Yeah. So look at this, folks. If Lewis wins, he's 44, and I think there's a total of 44 laps in here.
Yeah.
44.
Yeah, there you go.
And then, 16, if Charles wins, that would be the 16th time that Ferrari's won at this course.
That's really cool. There you go. That's a cool.
So there you go.
That's a cool.
We'll see. But, all right, so let's talk about Papaya.
Yeah,
guys.
so mention Lando, and I'm not going to, jump much more into him. I think he will end up in the points. I mean, obviously what's going to be really bad for Lando is if he ends up qualifying, if he gets to, I think he'll get to Q3, but if he gets to Q3 and he's like 9th or 10th and then he start 19th or 20th, then that's going to be tough. I am anticipating, and I think he's going to be really pushing. I think he's going to hopefully qualify somewhere between fifth, sixth, seventh's not great, but I think you're going to see him start on the hard tires as long as it's not raining, and he's going to push, and I think he will hoping for ninth or 10th. Oscar, I've said this. For me, a successful day for Oscar would be, obviously third on the podium. I don't think that's going to be the case unless something happens to one of the Mercedes. I think, anywhere from 4th to 6th for Oscar. Not a great weekend, but it sounds like, and I'm really optimistic here in Zach Brown and Andrea Stella, we've got some big upgrades coming for Hungary that they think are going to push for pace, push for wins and on the podium. So, could be a tough weekend. I think it's going to be a challenging weekend, obviously on the back foot with Lando, but I'm optimistic. So, Todd,
and I think your guys are good at bringing upgrades.
They are.
They've just got behind.
Yeah.
And I was reading something that they are almost 3 months behind because they were trying to figure out the power unit.
Yeah,
and they couldn't.
Which is not their fault. And for Mercedes side, I get it. You don't want to give everything. It's not right. But hey, welcome to the world of F1.
And so, it could be the second half of the year.
That's right. That's right. I'm optimistic. I think if we can have a really good showing in Hungary, not to jump too far ahead, I still think we're behind Ferrari and Mercedes, but I think we can cement ourselves as the third best constructor. So that's right. All right, Todd, let's get into it. I want to start with on the bottom here. Give us your pole position prediction, your biggest surprise, and we've already kind of talked about your driver to watch, but your driver to watch.
Yeah, I think Lewis is going to be on the pole.
I like it.
I'm gonna go for it. And,
I like it.
The biggest surprise, I think Isaac will be there. I think he's going to figure it out.
Okay.
And that's going to be one of them. I don't know, on what podium. And then the driver to watch, I talked about.
Is Lawson. I like that. I like that.
So what about you, Brad?
Yeah, pole position, and I did want to mention this, reading an article, pole has actually, it's not the end-all be-all to winning the race here. I mean,
first turn.
It is the pole position guy has not won the race here in a few races, so I think that's interesting. Pole position, I'm going Kimmy. And I'll go and say it. I don't think Kimmy's going to win the race. I think he's gonna have the qualification. He's going to have the quality pace. But anyway, biggest surprise. I'm going to go Franco Colapinto on the podium. I think you're going to see the Racing Bulls there. I'm going to go Franco. I think Pierre could be there, but I'm going to go Franco. My driver to watch. I said this not to repeat myself, but I like what Isaac's doing and. I don't know. I think if things play out the way that it's potentially looking at with Max, they're building that team around Isaac. So that's my driver to watch. Isaac, however you say it. So, all right, Todd, who's on the podium?
So coming up 3, I think Charles will be number 3. I think Kimmy number 2, and I'm gonna prove you wrong that the pole setter will also win. And
there we go. I like it.
Lewis.
I like it. I'm going Charles in 3rd. I'm going Kimmy in 2nd. I'm going Lewis in 1st. I think Lewis is going to get him on that 1st. I do think Kimmy. Okay. I think Kimmy's right there, and then I think George is going to be right there, and I'm just to throw one more prediction here. I think Isaac is gonna outperform Max. I really do. And it sounds just one final thing about Red Bull. Sounds like they have taken away the Macarena wing, and they've got some issues. I know they were voted best power unit. They've got some issues there. And hey, being a McLaren fan this year, I get that, but there's some things going on at Red Bull.
And Brad, I mean, if these guys are fighting up front and wreck, here comes Racing Bull, here comes some others. Right?
And that's a chance for Lando. So it's going to be madness.
Exactly.
Well, it's going to be fun. But thank you for joining us here on the Formation Lap, regular guys. Talking elite racing. We love doing this. Thank you so much for the support this year. It's crazy to think we're in round 10. We got 12 more races. Could as Todd mentioned, could see a couple more. But as you can see, please give this video a like. We appreciate all the support. Give us your comments on what you're expecting to see at Spa and
share it with your friends.
Just the Madison, and please share it and hit that subscribe button. We're going to continue to bring you content, of course, after this video, after the race on Monday. Early next week, you'll see our reaction to what happened on the race, and then stay tuned next week as we preview Hungary. And also just a quick little bug in your ear. we're going to be bringing you content during the summer break. They take a month off, but we've got some episodes planned. So stay tuned here on the Formation Lap. But enjoy Spa this weekend, and we will see you for our reaction video. This is Todd and Brad signing off.